Hey gang, Kris Krohn here with Limitless Wealth TV. Today I'm going to be answering the question on how to be a landlord. And make sure you hang out for the end of the video because I'm going to actually do a little litmus test on whether you should or shouldn't be a landlord. And no worries, if it's right up your alley, you're set. But if it's not, I'm going to give you two alternatives, one of them being my ultimate favorite. All right, so today we're going to be jumping into this conversation of how to be a landlord. And before I jump into this, I just want to invite you to start thinking now, should I be a landlord? Because I'm going to share with you two different alternatives if landlording is not for you. So here's just a couple of the rules. If you're insistent or thinking, I am going to be a landlord, here's a couple of things that you need to know right out of the gate. Rule number one, you have to put the right tenant in the home. Now you might be thinking, well, how do you do that? And how do you know who the right tenant is? Ultimately, it's going to come down to the fact that if you've done a background check and if the people can put up their first and last month's deposit or whatever their lease option down payment is, they need to be able to comfortably afford the place that they're renting. And so you might get someone, for example, let's say you're renting out a place that's $1,200 a month and the previous place they were renting was $700 a month, and you call that previous landlord and the landlord's like, oh yeah, they struggled to pay their rent. They were late every other month. Guess what's going to happen when they have a $500 increase with your rent? Even if they got a job and there's a reason why they think they can make it on time, people are usually creatures of habit. It's not necessarily a creature of finance. Some people pay the rent first, and some people, that's the last bill that they pay, which is why they're sometimes perpetually late. So I think the first thing for you to do is just recognize that rule number one is put the right person in. And the best way to know that is, number one, to look at the debt to income ratio, look at how much they make versus what their rent is, and then just use some common sense, right? If it looks like they're making plenty of money, then that's one way of knowing they should be able to pay their rent. But then number two, call some references. Now, I tend to be personally a little bit lazy and not like to jump through all those hoops. That's why I have property managers and people that will do some of those things for me. But one way or the other, it's really important that they do get done. So remember, if you want to be a landlord, number one, put the right people in the house. Okay. Rule number two, how lenient of a landlord are you? Okay, because when you're brand new to the business, there are some people that are like built for landlording. They tend to be bulldogs. They tend to be by the book and keeping the rules and justice. But if you're one of those really tender heart softened individuals that likes to hear the story of how they lost their job or their paycheck got lost, or they went to their grandma's funeral and that's why they're late for their rent. And if you just have that heart-wrenching disposition, landlording is very likely not for you because you're the problem. You're actually going to help perpetuate the fact that they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so's a pushover, so we're gonna pay them after we pay these less important bills, right? And so you've got to have a strong stomach, and you've got to be willing to meter out the contract and the information the way that it is ultimately set up and designed. The moment you start creating a room for any kind of leniency, I promise you, in 99% of situations, they're going to come back and they're going to start taking advantage of that. They're going to start leveraging that against their own game, because when you're tight on money, and by the way, understand that most people are. So what that means at the end of the day is they're trying to figure out, who can I push? They know with their cell phone, if they're late and they don't pay it, guess what happens? Their cell phone gets turned off. Guess what happens if they don't pay their electricity bill? It gets shut off. But guess what happens when they're late on their rent? No big deal. They're going to give me 5 extra days. They're not even going to impose the late fees. Listen, this is a business, and if you don't treat it like one, I'm just telling you, there's people out there that are going to mess with you. And it's not even because they're trying to. It's not because they're bad-natured. It's just that when things are tight, they want to know, when push comes to shove, who's firm and who's soft. Rule number two, do not be a soft property manager. It will establish a habit, and I promise you in most cases, you're going to start seeing a repeat problem show up. And I want you to understand that in that situation, if you're watching this and you're a landlord, you're like, gulp, I'm kind of guilty of that. You are the problem in this. It's not the fact that they're asking for leniency, it's that you're dishing it out. Okay, those are the two rules, first of all, that you want to be aware of when it comes to landlording. The next thing that I want to share with you is that there's a professional approach to landlording. You need to be familiar with the local state laws that you have, because some states are super friendly towards landlords and some states are super friendly towards tenants. Like there's some parts of the country that if you're late on your rent, you have these massive amounts of redemption periods to kind of get caught up, and you can basically squat in the house for quite a period of time without actually, paying your rent. There are other areas where you're late, I can give you a 3-day notice and you have to vacate. So be familiar with your laws and making sure that you're enforcing things legally, making sure that you're using the proper paperwork if it does come, unfortunately, to something like an eviction. And so you need to have that Oracle mind set up that says, I'm gonna follow the laws of how this works, like rent's due on this day, and if I don't collect it by this day, then they get this paperwork, and if they don't get it by here, then I do this. And the landlording business, even though often if you put the right person in the home, it's just gonna it's gonna take so little of your time, you're gonna hardly be aware that it exists. But if you have the wrong person or someone that's come under kind of hardship or duress or something's happened in their life, then all of a sudden it can start feeling like a job. You've got to make some phone calls, you've got to start showing up on premise, you've got to do some different things. And a lot of the new investors that go out there and they make the mistake for believing that they're going to be a really good landlord, or that they take that part for granted, like that part's easy, or it's not worth paying a management company 10% of gross rents to do that for me. In this energy of trying to save, if you're not going to do it the right way, then you really shouldn't then you probably shouldn't be doing it, because ultimately it's going to hurt you more than anybody else. So those are the 3 different considerations that I would share with you. And now, as a little bit of a bonus, I want to share really the other side of this, which is, hey, if you don't want to be a landlord, you need to consider 2 different replacement options. The first one is just hire a property manager. That one makes sense, right? It's not my favorite of the 2 options, but yeah, if you have a property manager step in, they're generally going to charge you 10% of gross rent. So if the place is collecting $800 a month, they're going to want 80 of it. And if it's $1,200 a month, they're going to want 120. So 10% of whatever the gross collection is. And you know what? They'll be the professionals. They'll divvy out the paperwork. They'll send by they'll line up the repair people. They'll do whatever it takes to get that taken care of. And some investors don't want to do that because that cuts in. If you have a $300 cash flow and that eats up 150 of it, then there's less. The other thing that you do need to be aware of with property managers is, because it's not their property, they don't care as much about the rates that they can make on having things repaired always, which means if there's a repair, you might want to go in and take care of it, but if they send their person in, it might cost double or triple. And so you just want to be aware that if there's a maintenance issue or if there's a repair issue, who are their people? You never really know whether there's kickbacks involved, but they're not going to penny pinch on the repairs the way you might. And so if you are going to hire someone, be aware of that. And then here's the second option, which ultimately really is my favorite option, which is, all right, what about a lease option? It's my compassionate financing system. You can go to my website and actually download the book for free, and my team and I can actually teach and show you how to do that. We can give you the contracts. We can set that all up for you. But what I love about a lease option is I typically make, on average, for a home priced underneath the median, meaning a house under $220,000, on average I make $40,000 more on it than I would doing a rental. And the people manage it and the people take care of it. And they give you a down payment, so they're showing a far higher degree of responsibility and skin in the game to take care of the property and treat it like it's their own versus just a place that they're temporarily renting. You check out one of the other videos on the way out so you can actually learn more about this lease option system. I'll give you the details on exactly how to do it in these other videos. And that would be a great way for you to have an alternative if landlording is not for you. Hey, I sure hope you enjoyed that video, and I really hope that it was useful for you. If there's something that I missed on landlording that you have questions about, drop them in the comments below. So make sure you check out my website or the link in the description below this video, and what I'll do is I'll share with you really a lot more of the details of how lease optioning works, why it's such a fantastic system, or you can even check out this video right here where I walk you through it.